Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting for Monday, December 4th, 2023. And we will begin with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Beerdorf.
Present.
Maher.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Stroman.
Here.
Pettigrew.
Here.
Seacrest.
Here.
Lehman.
Here.
Ham.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Roseland.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight we have a special treat. The PAC 7 will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and present the colors. And then following that, we will have an invocation by Pastor Randy Phipps. So if you'll please rise and the Scouts will lead us. Thank you.
Uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. Color guard advance. Color guard halt. Cross the colors. Color guard post the colors of the United States of America. Color guard post the flag of the state of South Dakota. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, honor your colors. 2. Color guards, retreat. Audience, you may be seated.
And actually, if you'll stay standing, and Pastor Randy Phipps
sorry.
will lead us in the invocation. Thank you.
I usually sit when Randy's around.
You talk about inspiring. Are we not blessed to live where we live? United States of America, honoring patriotism, civic responsibility, your participation here tonight. Thank you for our common council here in Rapid City for your due diligence in accomplishing the will of the people and the will of God. I hold here the agenda to which I'm going to pray, and I invite you to pray and join with me in the right spirit and one spirit, saying, Lord God, we need you. Thank you for what is happening here in Rapid City, South Dakota. May your hand be upon the activities of this council, of the citizens here, Lord God, that we would seek after you with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And I pray over this agenda tonight, Lord. The opportunity we have once again to adopt, to approve, to appoint, to vote, to voice. We have lots of options and we have lots of opinions, Lord God, but nothing counts more than your will being done on this earth as it is in heaven. Thank you for this night. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. To begin with, we are actually going to have a special presentation of presentation and public comment for state revolving fund application pertaining to the new water reclamation facility South Plant improvements, project number 23-2629.2 and CIP number 51129.2. And with that, I will turn it over to Public Works. Thank you. We did already. Oh, stand by. Before we do that, we need to adopt the agenda. My apologies. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Stroman, second by Seacrest. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Vice President Stroman, for that nudge. Now we will have our presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council, members of the public. My name is Jennifer Seatsma. I'm the Executive Director for Black Hills Council of Local Governments, membership organization the City of Rapid is part of. And for those who might be new to the council since the last time I presented on this project, and to the public who might not know who we are or what we do, we're a regional planning district that provides technical and administrative services to cities and counties in western South Dakota. Tonight's project, we're here to discuss an additional funding request This project was approved by the council in 2021, and there's anticipation that, just the way the world is right now, that this project will likely come in over budget. And so we need to secure additional funding for the project. And as a result of the project application, we need to hold a public hearing to offer the opportunity for public comment and to fill the council in on what the status of the project is. So as a requirement of the SRF funding program, there's certain discussion items that have to be covered in the public hearing. And so me, along with Public Works, will cover all of those, and then we'll hold questions from the council and comments from the public till the end. So the things that have to be covered in tonight's presentation are the need for the project alternatives, description of the project, additional funding, amount to be borrowed, interest rate and term, revenue source pledged for repayment, and the effect of financing on user rates. In addition, you have forthcoming resolution that's required as part of the project at a later time. So with that, I'm going to let Public Works discuss the first three items.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mayor, Council, good evening. I'm Eddie Lopez. I'm the project manager for the South Plant Improvements Project, and I'll be going over project needs for you guys today. I'll start off with a little history of the water reclamation facility. In 1967, the original plant was open. In 1985, it received expansion due to growth and changing regulations. In 2003, again, due to change in growth and expansion, there was a need for the South Plant activated sludge treatment train to be constructed. And that's the side of the plant that we're expanding on today. In 2016, a facility master plan was conducted with the help of HDR, which helped us plan for the next 20 years and has identified this project as a need. Along the way, we have done various reliability projects in order to help maintain the facility plant, the facility out there at the water reclamation facility, but there's a need for improvements today. In 2022, Danner gave us gave us funding for the project that we have today, and we'll go over the funding needs today. The facility plan identified 4 categories that we'll be today. One was aging infrastructure. The north trickling filter is in need of repair. It's past its design life. Crew have done an excellent job in maintaining the trickling filter. However, time for replacement has come. Again, due to the type of project, there is available funding out there for this type of project. The lights here. Stronger regulations are anticipated here in the future. The current setup that we have out there today, we will not be able to meet those regulations. So an expansion project is needed in order to help us meet those treatment requirements. Again, change in growth. We're all testament that Rapid City is growing. There's additional flows that are being experienced out there on the plant, and we will not be able to meet those anticipated growth. However, the South Plant expansion project is considering that growth, and we'll be able to meet treatment regulations. And with that, I'll hand it over to Delron Peters to continue the presentation.
As Eddie said, I'm Delron Peters with HDR Engineering. I'll go through the alternatives just briefly that we reviewed. We looked at reusing what we could of the old plant, which included using the trickling filters for wet weather flow, or using them as a pre-nitrification facility. In the end, the selected alternative was to expand the newer plant, which was built in 2003, and use that as the whole plant, and reuse the UV disinfection system and the primary clarifiers that are in the system. There we go. As part of the facility plan and the project, we verified that we met environmental compliance. We considered potential impact for wetlands and waterways, parks and facilities, air and water quality, agricultural farmland, threatened and endangered species, and cultural resources. Ultimately, there was no impacts found. We send letters to all these agencies, and they basically check it all out for us. So this is a picture of the improvements. You can't really see too much, but the bottom line is the brown is the new expansion of the facility that is required to meet the treatment needs for the facility for the 20-year path forward for the plant to both meet it in terms of flow, regulations, and growth. The green portion at the top are the portions that are the 1960 and the 1985 portions of the plant, and those are ultimately going to be phased out because they're breaking down and not in good shape right now. So because construction costs challenges, ultimately we take opinions of probable cost for the market, how things are changing, and continually update our estimate based on commodities, the concrete, the rebar, and the process equipment that we need for the project. Since 2021, we've seen a pretty unprecedented cost increase, just like we've seen across the board in the business. So we've been adding about 15 or 20% to the recent opinion of probable cost to match what we're seeing in bidding. So as I said, the biggest challenges are availability of materials, but also contractor availability right now is a challenge. We are also having to enhance the process and address, basically remodel or refurbish parts of the plant to get them up to speed. And then, the final bullet is developing accurate project costs has become an industry-wide and nationwide challenge. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and the last 3 years have just been the toughest 3 years we've had to get our numbers really tight. I think.
We must be going too long if we've already worn out a microphone. So the funding for this project, as I mentioned earlier, this is an existing project already previously approved by the council. At that time, the cost estimate came in at about $145 million. Secured Department of Ag and Natural Resources. Of that $145 million, 43.5 million grant. So those are dollars from the state and federal government that the city and the users on the system do not have to repay. And 101.5 million is loan with a 20-year term at 2%. The additional funding that we're going to be requesting from DANR's SRF program is $35 million. Again, just that's to protect the investment that he has already made in this project, and to ensure that at the time of bid we have enough funds available. So we go back at that project. Securing the additional funding now allows us to once the project is bid. The $35 million for this loan, because it is a different loan, is 20 years at 3%. So the part that might interest people who are here today from the public, if you're here for this project, is the impact to the users. The 5-year average annual rate increase to cover this portion of the project is estimated to be $2.20 per 5,000 gallons. So that $2.20 would be per user. The proposed source of repayment is a revenue bond. Those who might not be familiar, the SRF program has 4 different ways you can bond, which is kind of your promise to repay the loan from them. There's an option of a general obligation bond, sales tax revenue bond, a revenue bond that's system revenues, or project surcharge. The first 3 that I mentioned count against the city's constitutional debt limit. A project surcharge does not. But in your case, the benefit of using a system revenue bond is that you can minimize the impact to the users by spreading the increase to cover the debt service over several years, which is what you will, well, really going too long, is what you'll see in the proposed rate increases that the city has probably already talked about. So again, the impact of this additional funding is roughly or approximately $2.20 per user per month at 5,000 gallons. So I guess at this time you can call for comments, or you can have the council ask any questions they might have, and then however you want to handle that.
Okay. Any council members? We'll start with the council, and then maybe we'll go to public comment after that. Alderman Roberts.
Thank you. You had just mentioned a surcharge instead of, on that surcharge, they can only spread it out for 5 years and not 20 years like they're doing in the rate study?
No, the project surcharge is different in that a project surcharge, whatever money is collected, so let's just say $11 is needed to repay this loan. When you collect that $11 as a surcharge, the only use of that funds is to repay your note. When you use a revenue bond, one, it allows more flexibility for the city. You get to set your own rates, and the only requirement of the loan or the award of the loan is that you set your rates substantial enough to cover 110% debt coverage. With a surcharge, if $11 is what's needed to repay this note, you collect it. You can't use it for O&M. You can't use it for capital improvements. That raise can only be used to repay your debt service. So by using a revenue bond, it allows more flexibility. For example, your first loan won't go into repayment until around 2025. This loan will be in the future. So to minimize the impact on the individual user, you can do incremental increases until your note goes into repayment. Whereas if you do the surcharge, you're not going to have that flexibility. You have to show 110% debt coverage pretty much immediately upon closing the loan.
But that can still be spread out over 20 years.
Oh,
or
so
whatever.
the loan repayment is 20 years regardless. So with a water or a system revenue, a wastewater revenue bond, if you currently have the capacity to pay your interest payments because you haven't drawn the loan yet because the project hasn't been built yet, so the loan is pretty small, you can just pay that with your existing revenues from that system. So
Okay.
both notes are going to be 20 years. So repayment happens over 20 years. It's just I think your Public Works is actually maybe doing the public a favor because they're able to delay that increase rather than having it hit all at once. It's incremental over the next 5 years.
Until you look at the back end of it. Then they're not doing them a favor because we built this in already for 20 years and it's not going to go away 20 years from now.
Yes, the note will be paid off in 20 years.
Yes, but the rates aren't going to go down in 20 years. The rates will stay the same.
Sure. So what you're saying is if they did a revenue bond right now and increased it, and paid by surcharge, once the note has been repaid, the surcharge essentially falls off.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, I guess if you look at it that way.
Yep. Because I think that we're just not being very open with the public about what we're doing right now. I know, we absolutely need to do this project. We have to do it. I'm going to vote to do this project. It's just a matter of the way that we fund it and how the taxpayers are looking at it,
So I would just say if you don't utilize a DA&R SRF program for your loan or the USDA program, which you're not even allowed to use, you're not allowed that 20-year term. You as a city are limited to 10-year term.
Yes.
So that, again, that impact,
Yes.
for some people, that the total rate would hit immediately, and I don't know if everyone has the ability,
Well, we just went through a 43% increase on the water side. Now we're talking about a 60% increase on the water side and a 72% increase on the sewer side in the next 5 years. So the impact is going to hit right away for everybody. It's just going to be more dramatic at the end of 5 years. And again, my concern is if we just build this into rates at the end of 20 years, those rates are overinflated because of what we're paying there. And I have yet to see a rate at the city, the county, the state, the federal government that gets lowered in 20 years. So that's just my concern. Thank you.
Next, Councilman Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple questions. So you said you wanted the funding in place before the project is bid. Is that accurate?
Yes, so in order to be able to award a bid, you have to have the money available. And I think what I understand from Public Works is you don't have $35 million or $180 million in your account right now So that would be limiting. If your next question is, if it comes in under, are you still obligated to this loan? And I would say no. You can submit an application and reject the funds if it turns out you don't need it.
Okay, and how realistic is it to believe that we'll be able to keep the bid price? I mean, if I'm concerned about cost overruns and change orders, things like that. I mean, are we confident that if we award this bid that we're going to be able to count on that number?
So the project has not been bid yet. It'll go, I believe they said the timeline for bid will be March? Oh, okay, so January. Yes, so the hope is that we'll have this funding secured within the 30 days of needing to award that bid. And your engineers have that timeline all worked out. So the project has not been bid yet. And once you bid a project, you have 30 days to make an award.
Okay, but if we do make that award, I mean, in your experience, are we likely to be able to rely on that?
So in my experience within the last 4 years, with COVID and everything, it creates a much larger issue for the community if you do not have the funding secured and available to it. Because what happens is you have to reject the bid, go back, secure the funding, which going through the program is a 6-month process, secure the money, and then go back and rebid. Well, you've already invested time and money in writing the bid and bidding the first time. So I believe that your engineers have done the work ahead of time to ensure that this will be enough money to be able to award the bid. That's the hope here. For many of the projects, they're actually delayed by an entire year, which when you delay a project by a year, it seems like the costs keep increasing. Right. So I would say Rapid City is one of the communities I have that is being proactive and going after to secure the dollars before the bid, knowing that we'll probably need additional funds.
Okay. Thank you. And then one last thing. The gentleman from HDR was saying that he was working with a 15 to 20% potential increase based on factors such as inflation and cost of materials, availability of workforce, those type of things. That is higher than inflation, I guess. I mean, are you trying to be more conservative there, or?
No, that's just, we've just taken our bid pricing that we've been seeing. I mean, literally bid tabs that we get from projects across the region and the nation, and we look at how they're increasing. And that's what we're seeing on our bids for these type of projects.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Okay. And we're going to go to Councilor Sechrist.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here and presenting on this project. I was just going to clarify that 101 million SRF loan that was previously awarded? Is that already awarded, or is that part of this application anyway? Could you just clarify how that's included in this?
That's previously awarded, and it's the loan has been closed, and we've actually done draws for reimbursement. So all of the DANR programs are on a reimbursement basis. So you have to show the costs and request reimbursement as you incur the cost. But the good thing about them doing it that way is you're only paying interest on what you've drawn from the loan. So yes, the previous loan is a completely separate loan. It's been closed, and draws have been done for, I believe, mostly for design engineering. So does that answer your question?
Yes, I was just kind of curious where we were at with the other piece of this. So this 35 million is going to be really a supplement to the 101 million that we're needing in order to combine with the 43.5 million that's been awarded from the state. So this is a grand total of 190 million we're investing in our water reclamation facility. How does that impact us overall in the user fee side? I know you spoke about the 220 impact to the user on what our average billing cycle might look like for our residents, but when we include that 101 million, do you have an idea of what that might look like overall with all of it?
Sure, that has already been figured. The 101 million has already been figured into the existing rates, and so there's not a separate increase for that. That's already been accounted for, I believe, in your 2018 to 2022 rate increase or rate study. So that's already been accounted for. So again, that's not going to be in addition to the $2.20. And the $2.20 increase won't happen immediately. That's average over the 5 years. So it'll be less than
Okay.
that, but yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Next, we're going to return to Councilor Roberts.
Sorry, I didn't come in.
There you go, sir.
Thank you. Now I need to think for a minute about the question I was going to ask, because she was asking so many. And I think I was going to go back to the bond, because I wasn't sure if that bond had been allocated and we've got that money.
So
The
you're
40, no, the 41 or 43 million or whatever that
So the 43
is.
is a grant, so there is no
Or
bond.
I meant grant, yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
so that's already been awarded, and I'd have to take a look. I think we're making withdrawals on that. So it's usually awarded at a percentage of the total project cost, and we draw concurrently.
So this is just adding more and more and more questions into my mind, because I'm sitting here looking at the spreadsheets for the rate increases for the next 5 years, and we've got $190+ million built into this rate structure for $101 million that's already in the old rates, and it looks like I'm getting really confused now. I'll wait until we're talking about this item later, and I'll talk about more things. But I do appreciate you coming forward and telling us this. Again, I think that this is definitely something we need to do, because if we're in the middle of this project and we need to get it done and we can't delay it because it's just going to cost us more money. But I think that we need to be open to the citizens about how it's going to be paid for and how much it is and how much it's going to impact them. And, you know, I feel very uncomfortable about not being able to get a rate study, because the rate study can't be done until we vote on the new rate increases and put them in it, which I think is kind of backwards. But anyway, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming forward.
And now we will go to, if there's any members of the public who want to have public comment for this particular item with regards specifically to the water reclamation facility south plant improvements. Because we're required to do a public comment for this item, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm not seeing anybody jump up for this item. Mr. Green?
So I guess the bid's going to be.
Sir, would you go up to the microphone? And you do have 3 minutes for public comment.
So it sounds like the bid is going to be let in March of 2024, is what I heard. Basically, you're gonna open the bids, but the bid's gonna close in March of 2024 is what I'm saying. So when do we expect this project to be completed? What's the timeline of the whole project?
Yeah, so it's with the time delays for getting equipment, 2028, June of 2028 is substantial completion. So it's generally a 4-year project.
Okay. Very good. Any other public comments for this item? Okay. Well, thank you for the presentation. We appreciate it. Next, we're going to move to general public comment. This is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. We have a number of speaker request forms. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes for your public comments. We'll ask you to come up here and state your name, and then just ask that we be civil in your discourse, and we'll begin with Father Joe Hubbard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Joe Hubbard. I am an Episcopal priest serving both St. Matthew's Episcopal Church on Haynes Avenue as well as St. Andrew's Episcopal Church on Susan. I stand before you tonight to express my gratitude in a recent decision to allow my friends at Woyatan to take on the mail service from the Hope Center. And I thank you for that because I have parishioners in both communities, St. Matthews and St. Andrews, who will benefit from that decision. At St. Matthews, we often get folks who are part of our community who are unhoused and unsheltered relatives. And we serve them as best we can with spiritual nourishment as well as other things that we're able to provide. Connecting them to resources here in the city. And Mr. Mayor, I know you have encouraged us to examine all the resources available. And what a gift to live in a place like Rapid City where we have such tremendous resources to respond to an issue like homelessness. What is important, I think, is that the community come together to help our relatives connect with those resources. That's something the Hope Center did well. It's something that our faith communities now are attempting to step into the gap and provide. My friend, Pastor John Oldhorse, it has been a great resource as we in the faith community here in Rapid City and particularly in North Rapid have looked at the impact in our communities with the closure of the Hope Center. I would like to point out that I may be one of the few faith leaders in our community who serve a congregation who has folks who have volunteered at the Hope Center and who have been part of this work, as well as parishioners who have been recipients of this work. So I stand here on behalf of both communities, those who see a need here in Rapid City and who have stepped up to respond to that need out of the goodness of their heart, out of the convictions of their faith and their teachings, and out of their love for this community, as well as folks who have been the recipients of that kindness. And to all the members of the council and to you, Mr. Mayor, I say thank you. I say thank you for expediting the process to allow some of these services to go forward. And I assure you that as members of our faith community here in Rapid City, there are a number of us in conversation, a number of us in study, a number of us in prayer who are committed to stepping into that gap, to supporting you as our leaders in this city. And know that we support you not just here in our city council, we support you in our congregations, we support you at night on our knees by our bed in our prayers. And know that you have our support as we move forward to tackle a very complex issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Pastor Jonathan Oldhorse, and that'll be followed by Robert Momartz.
Ohemitakyapi. My name is Pastor Jonathan Oldhorse. Mr. Mayor, Councilman Lehman, Councilman Roberts, Chief, good to see you all. Come in a good way to say thank you to the mayor and to the council for that expedition on those permits for the mail and for trying to keep the resources going. And as the pastor of Woyaton, we have worked together with the city numerous times during this cold weather. And we made a commitment last time 2 years ago with Mayor Allender that in times of cold weather, in times of emergency, that Woyaton would be that overflow of resources. With this time of the Hope Center closing down and with it being down to the CAP office, which is a 3-mile walk one way, the people are comfortable with Woyaton and where it's at. It's centrally located in the heart of Ward 4. And so our resources are centered there, the heart of the Native American community. We also still have our warming buses and everything are out there. So we just want to come and say thank you that come Monday, we are prepared to do what we have to do to take care of the people of this community and to also try to build this relationship with the city council on this new city council and the new mayor to be good relatives and to put our minds together and let's take care of our community and find those common grounds where we can work together, and then we'll work about all those other things that we have problems with later. But right now, Woyaton is concerned about the cold weather Usually we've had months to kind of prepare. We didn't have time to get together with the council to have kind of conversations of how we want to do these things. But all the resources that we had during that time of the shelter will still be there, minus the fact that we won't be doing overnights. We can't do that. That was hard anyway. But to have those times of the same kind of hours that they had at the Hope Center Monday through Friday from like 9 to 4 is what we are planning on. And so I invite my 2 ward members to come up to our facility, even the mayor, to come check it out, see what we can do, and let's put our minds together. I invite you all to come up in a good way. So at this time, Wopila Chichelo. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Next, Robert Momartz, followed by Kurt Napper.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with this podium. Good evening, Mayor Solomon, council members. I'd like to speak about some of the comments at the last city council meeting. Hopefully Sheriff Mueller's here. I've got a question for him. I don't need an answer, just something that needs to be thought about. He mentioned something about how the mission provides a shelter for people who are sober, whereas Safe Solutions, or those in the unsheltered community, myself included, know it as Safe Bed. How it is a requirement to be twice the legal limit to be taken into Safe Solutions or Safe Bed. The reason given at the last city council meeting by Sheriff Mueller was, well, we don't want to duplicate services. Well, don't we have multiple gas stations, multiple grocery stores, multiple places that provide the same services for other people? That's one thought. The other thought was with the thought of community action and churches. At what point did churches stop becoming shelters or places for safekeeping of the less fortunate? As a Christian myself, I know not everybody in this room is, but it is our duty to take care of those in need. Personally, I believe that a lot of the unsheltered population fit in that category. That being said, I do have a couple other questions. I personally had an involvement with city law enforcement. I was calling for a police, not necessarily a detail, but just somebody for protection in the basically handing over of personal property, my vehicle and then a cell phone that belonged to a family member. When I was asked for that, I was told that's not the city's problem. We're not personal security guards. Deal with it yourself. I found that very, very disheartening. I will be contacting the police chief and getting a record of that conversation. I do believe the city and the county's duties are to serve and protect the public, not to belittle them over the phone. And I'll leave it at that.
Next, Kurt Napper, followed by Cindy, I think Owens or Cindy, whoever Cindy is.
My name's Kurt Napper, and I'm here. I'm a houseless person, and I'm just here. Last 2 weeks ago, the sheriff got up here and he talked about the safe bed and the quality control lady. Well, I've been homeless, like I said last time, for quite a few years. Why don't these quality control people, why don't they come and talk to us? Why don't they have their few that they help, right? And I'm grateful for them. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for them. They do a good job, and same with the safe bed. There's some of us out there on the streets that have burned our bridges at the mission. Not me personally, but there's ones that haven't been forgiven that are trying to stay sober and they can't go into a safe place. What about them? To do, like Rob was saying, that not duplicating the situation, but what about them ones that haven't been forgave by the mission, There's a lot of them. I was just wondering, and they were saying that they have a committee. Do you think maybe that some of the houseless people that are in Rapid City might get involved and have a say. We're not all drunks and laying under the bridge. I mean, you know, some of us have good input, like, for some things, you know? Like, there's things that was said about the mission, there was things that said about Safe Bed that just aren't true. And I see it out here, living on the streets. I see it. You go to Safe Bed and spend the night there, they're going to be on top of their game. They're going to be on their P's and Q's. I go there, I see the mistreat. You know, why don't the counselors that you spent millions of dollars at this building over here, why don't they come in? Why don't they come in and talk to us or ask us, why are you sleeping here? Why did you come in drunk 4 days in a row, Kurt? That's not the norm. There must be something wrong. And that's what the quality control lady and people are supposed to be, right? And I'm just dumbfounded on how I don't know how many times I sat at the biscuits and gravy and Holly walked right around me like I wasn't even there. You know? Not that I would probably need her help because I'm pretty self-efficient on my behalf, you know? But there is some that she never even talked to. She don't even know their names. And I'm going to leave it with that.
Next, Cindy, and I'm sorry, Cindy, is it Devens?
It's Devens.
Devens, okay. Followed by Ben Sherman.
Thanks. I'm a resident of Prairie Acres, and I come to the city council because they're asking us for copies of our titles. They're asking us to be added to our insurance at our cost, and they're asking us to, if we have a pet, to add them to our liability policy to the tune of $250,000 at our cost. And I was curious if the city has any idea or any suggestions on how to deal with them. Because it's my understanding that you can't mandate me to spend money to benefit a corporation.
Well, right now I wouldn't be able to give you that answer, but
Well, that was just
Okay.
my comment. If you guys could look into it and see if there's anything the council could do, that would be amazing.
okay. Cindy, I don't have your contact information,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so I'll pass this down if you could do that.
That would be great. I'll put my phone number on there.
All right. Thank you. Next, Ben Sherman, followed by Andy Bashan.
Thank you for having me here today. I am heartened to hear that that our city council, that there has been work with the faith communities in Rapid City. I find it frustrating. I've been coming here and watching people speak and speaking myself, that we're now finally seeing some action. And I guess the frustrating thing is the lack of transparency. There's public release statements that say, oh, we're going to do something, and we're sitting here stressing out, like, well, what's going to happen with this? And maybe that wasn't known, but there was no good indication that that was being worked on and that people are being talked to, and it would be better for to have that transparency so people know what's going on and aren't wasting energy in other areas. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Andy Bashan, followed by, I believe, Maven Kammerer.
Good evening, City Council. Nice to see everybody so packed in here. I want to extend a thank you first to the city staff in the development department under Vicki Fisher for working to expedite the permits. allowing 3 different locations to facilitate the mail so that there'd be a continuity of service and continuity of care for our most vulnerable population out in the community. I want to say thank you to the City Council, particularly the council members that have met with us. It's really deeply appreciated. And I stand here tonight wearing many hats, but one of them that I stand here tonight as the only Rinpoche Buddhist that I know of in our community. And our Sangha means a community of practice. The Sangha that I've been part of was established more than 32 years ago. And in our Sangha, our practice is what we call boots on the ground. We don't have a temple. We don't have a place that we converge at. We converge with each other out in the community. Our practice also mandates action. And so that's where this comes from. That's where this passion of mine personally comes from within our community. And I stand here tonight with my brother, Jonathan Oldhorse, my brother, Father Joe Hubbard, my brother, David Piper. We've got another brother over here in the community. And hopefully he'll be speaking soon too. And there's in the last, 4 or 5 days, there's been, I think, a total of 16 different pastors in the community that have come together. And I expect that there will be more, all standing together to support meeting the needs of the most vulnerable in our population. There is a notion that there is enough services out there. And I think that our relative, Kurt, said it the best in that, we have multiple hotels, we have multiple gas stations, we have multitudes of lots of things. Some people like coffee at Starbucks. I'm not one of them. Some of us like to drink coffee at Pure Bean. I am one of them. We like selection. I think the same is true with our vulnerable population. We have to recognize that. We're talking about human beings. We're not talking about people that we're going to discard. And that's where I find it the most difficult, is there's coded language that indicates that people that are suffering out in our community are something less than human. And that's where I get upset, angry, frustrated, and passionate. So again, thank you so much for stepping up, taking this one step. Let's continue to work together and find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Maven Kemmerer, followed by John Feister. Pardon me.
The name is Marvin.
Oh, Marvin. I'm sorry, Marvin. I didn't see the R in
That's
there.
plumb all right. I welcome the fact that the council will listen to me. I hope. I come from Meade County. We pay taxes also in Pennington County. My grandfather came here in about 1880. He and his brother were known as window makers. They made them from scratch. My dad was born in 88. I'm pushing 87. But we were told then by the government that there was free land out here. Well, the land isn't free. You have to work to keep it. At least we did. 70% of the homeless across the nation a couple of years ago were vets. They were vets. And we need to take care of them. Free land, my grandfather came for that. And so did his brothers. We live on a place that's still there. But free land is not free. And we would encourage, at least my family will, that you find a way to keep the Hope Center open and operative. The people come here for jobs. They come here because there's no other place to live. And by God, I don't drive much anymore. And coming here is a struggle. But we need to help, and supposedly free land is not free.
Mr. Kemmer, your time's up.
Let me go on to say, because I've traveled a ways, that the hope of the Hope Center has to be honored. For God's sake, we as human beings owe it.
Thank you, sir.
People.
Thank you. Next, John Feaster or Feister, if you could correct me where I'm wrong there. And following that would be Mark Millar.
Thank you. It's John Feaster.
Feaster.
So, yeah, it's good though. Right. It looks like Feister. So I want to say, I'm the lead pastor at Renewal Church in North Rapid, and I want to thank you all for the opportunity to share. I actually have many other things I'd rather be doing tonight, but I feel it's important that my voice is not wasted. I want to start with commending each of you on stepping up to lead our city. Not many people have a desire to selflessly serve others, so thank you for answering the call. A call that often puts you in impossible situations, and there's never a shortage of opinions and criticism, so I don't envy you. I fully believe each of you individually and collectively have a desire to see Rapid City be a thriving community and truly the best it could possibly be. I'm also confident you want to act upon your sacred duty to protect the most vulnerable among us. I know you have a heart of compassion and want to see solutions to the issue at hand, which is the closing of the Hope Center and the dignity it brings to our citizens. Not just the services, but more importantly, the relationships. As a community member and pastor of the gospel, I have an obligation to use my voice for those who may not have one. I have several friends whose lives are greatly impacted by this unfortunate situation. Because of the urgency that is now upon us, I ask that you lead boldly by proactively removing the red tape that often gets in the way. Thank you for doing that with the mail service, and I encourage you to go farther with it. I have been on and around enough boards and councils in my life to know that a strange phenomenon often takes place. Sometimes it is possible that a bunch of great people can come up with negative policies that none of them individually believe or want, but somehow within the collective group, they get put into place. Stuff can get legislated to death, and then we wonder how we ended up at the destination that we did not want. So I urge that this dragon be fought with alertness and valor. One of the greatest assets of any free society is the problem-solving capabilities of the local people. They can often recognize and resolve issues before any level of government even understands the full context. But the biggest challenge to this at times is getting the government to recognize the brilliance in this and remove themselves as an obstacle. So my plea is simple. I know each of you individually want the right thing to be done. If as a collective organization you cannot come to a timely solution that honors the dignity of the most vulnerable, then please use your individual influence in the city to not stand in the way of the people who are willing and able to step up to the plate. Use your entrusted power to help remove the red tape, speed up any necessary permits, and find creative reasons and solutions to why you can give freedom back to the people. Please don't stop others from doing the right thing. There are people who are willing to carry the weight, so allow them. Thank you.
And next, Mark Millar will be our final speaker for general public comment.
How you doing? I came here on a personal item again tonight. I was here 2 weeks ago Nobody contacted me, from the city about my water bill. They did meet me tonight, and so I find that my issue is on the agenda for Tuesday Public Works. So I'm going to give you a break tonight. I'm not going to call you a bunch of predatory billers and other off-color things. I do have one question. I know that's not part of the protocol, but could you remind me of what the budget was for the city this year? Proposed budget?
General fund on just under $100 million.
Total,
And total, if you include airport and our enterprise funds, $261 million.
261 million. Because today when I was preparing to come here and I thought I was still fighting with you guys, I was going back through some of my texts, and fiscal year 2020, the original budget, proposed budget, before we got our first time money in, we made an adjustment to the budget at the end, and we added $30 million. The original fiscal 2020 year budget proposal was $140 million. So in 4 years, we have practically doubled the city's cost of doing business. At the same time, we're proposing a water project, or a water sewer project, that's equal to at that time was an entire year's budget. And I think we're getting ready to propose, or already have okayed a airport project that's equal to an entire year's budget again. Now, we've already locked up all of our Christmas money with the former mayor's box of air over there, which literally only presents an opportunity for profit to the alcohol salespeople in the city. It's the only money that's ever been made at the Civic Center was off of vendor sales, alcohol sales. And so we're still abusing and proposing to abuse the Vision Fund to further expand that into paying our everyday bills. And I hear Councilman Roberts, they're concerned about these loans that we've been putting out for 5 years and 20 years and what it's going to be like when they come to attrition. Sounds like we've, including the proposals of the increases that you have on the table right now, we're going to be well over 100% in increases in the last 10 years on water and sewer. I think you guys have got us on a course for bankruptcy. I don't know how anybody would have proposed to raise the cost of doing business 100% in 4 years. I think most of you weren't here. This might be a stat you don't even care about, and I'll make this quick. When the 2020 census came out, this city had to adjust our proposed population down by about 6 or 7% because we've always leaned on the number to break the threshold of a city of 75,000 people. We've literally been leaning on the numbers from every angle in this city for a long time. And I think you guys have got us in a hell of a bad course. Thank you.
With that, that'll be the end of general public comment, and we will close general public comment and move on to non-public hearing items 1 through 32, and we will open public comment for items 1 through 27. I do not have any speaker request forms for those items, so we will close the public items for 1 through 27 and move to consent items 1 through 27. Would the council wish to remove any items or vote on the remaining consent items?
Second.
Got a motion by Lehman and a second by Roseland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the end of consent items. And now we will move on to non-consent items 28 through 32, and open public comment for items 28 through 32. And I do have one speaker request form from Chris Green. Mr. Green, as with earlier, 3 minutes for your comments for items 29 through 30, by the way, Council.
Good evening. It's going to talk about basically the predicate for these massive water and sewer rate increases. So as everyone knows, the 2023 state water plan Application was made by the city for multiple projects. And really for the part of this discussion here, the South Plant Water Reclamation Facility improvements, 145 million was approved. And the Water Reclamation Facility upgrades, 7.4 million. The East Side Water Treatment Plant was also applied, but under Table 12, it was denied. Doesn't mean that it's permanently denied, but at least it's delayed for some time at a minimum. Also, the predicate, there's some spreadsheets that you guys, I think, have seen at this point on wastewater and water. And the thing that's very curious about this is that, understand having contingency budgets for a facility. Tonight we heard that, we're going to bid that thing March 2024 is when the bids will come in, about $180 million. In these spreadsheets, we're at $194,634,170. So that number keeps going all over the place. The bid date keeps going all over the place. The last time I saw it was in a July Rapid City Journal article where it said construction was going to be done in June of 2027. Reason this is important is all cash flows. When the money has to be paid. So when you're in a construction contract, basically, it's basically labor and materials as those things arrive on site over years. And in this case, it's going to be about a 4-year construction cycle. That money's not paid all up front. It's paid continually to the project until completion. So that affects your debt payments. It affects your cash flow of your funds. Also on the wastewater side, there is an $80 million number on here for WRF maintenance and operation facility, which I'm not sure if that's ever been made public. So, if we take the total with $274.6 million, subtract a $43.5 million grant from the feds, we're at $231.1 million. That's just on the wastewater side. On the water side, we've got the East Side Surface Water Treatment Plant at $140.6 million versus the $135 that was in the prior grant. And also Mountain View Water Treatment and Maintenance Facility at $98.9 million for a total of $239.6 million. So when you put it all together, we're at $514,329,186 minus the federal grant, $470 million. This is assuming all the bids come in at what they're theoretically going to come in. We're basically at $500 million. So I looked at this and I said I couldn't figure out for the life of me why we're going to 10% increase in the water, because we just had a 6-year process here for the actually 7-year from 2021, the date it was designed, until it's going to be built in 2028. The water plant's not going to be around until 2030 at the earliest, and we're already asking for a 65% increase of something that's not even going to exist. So, anyway.
Thank you. Next up, Bill Freitag for items 29 through 30 as well.
Thank you, Mayor. John, you said earlier when I just came in here, there was what was the reason the study is not made an attachment to this agenda item? You mentioned that. That's a question for John, if I can ask him that.
Well, for this time, it's your time, but when John will have an opportunity to speak shortly, you can answer it then.
This study cost $274 million, if I understand it correctly, Mayor, and that I think I'm correct. If I'm wrong, you should correct me. But if I'm going to pay $274 million, from the public ought to be able to read it, and it should.
274,000.
Yes, what did I say, million?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, folks. 274,000. But my point is, I still should be able to read it, and it should be an attachment. And this is a hearing process, and so and the public gets to participate in these hearings. That's our legal right, that we can do this. And so you can't keep a document and keep it to yourself and not make it public to me so that I can respond to it. That you cannot do, and you should not be doing that. And that's my biggest complaint here, is I need to be able to look at that study. And if you just keep that from me, then I guess I'm at a huge disadvantage here. And I don't know how I can solve my disadvantage, but I would hope you would fix that and make that thing be an attachment. The other thing what Chris brought up, I'm just going to emphasize it again. If we look at all this stuff that's proposed, and it's over $500 million, $500 million, and what we're looking at raising funds today is with a grant and a loan that we already have is about 150. And I don't know if what I read in the city auditor's report for 2022 is correct, but out of the water enterprise fund and the wastewater enterprise fund, there's about $50 million there that's usable. The rest of it is spoken for, if I understand the auditor's position on it. But where does that $50 million fit into everything? So how are we going to pay the other $250 million bucks? That's what I'd like to know. So I'm afraid what you're going to do to me is I'm going to have a double water bill at the end of 4 or 5 years here. My water bill is going to be double, and my water, sewer, and garbage is going to be 110% of what it is today. But then the following years, which I'm not privy to any numbers, it's probably going to be it's got to go up 3 or 4 times, because how are you going to, if you got a bond for it, these rates aren't going to be 2 and 3%. And so where does this come from? So now what are we going to do? Raise the water bill and the sewer bill and the garbage bill again till we've got it up to 300 or 400% of what it is today? Anyway, you need to put that study online so everybody has access to it, and you need to consider the whole expenditure that Chris just brought out to you instead of just part of it today. So thank you,
Mr.
gentlemen.
Freitag. I do have a speaker request for item 31 from Don Nicolini, but it says just here if there's any questions. So unless you want to speak, did you want to speak? Okay. When we get to your item, good to know that the representative's here. If the council has questions, I'll ask then. So that'll take us to the end of the public comment period, excuse me, for non-consent items. And we will move on to item 28. Approve introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6598, an ordinance regarding supplemental appropriation 6 for 2023. And with that, we'll go to the finance department. Daniel Ainsley, the finance director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to break this down, because I know it is a large number, $33 million of the entire supplemental is for ongoing projects. These were projects largely that were awarded in 2022, and so they were part of the 2022 budget. But as many capital projects do, they were not completed fully in 2022, so they're continuing into 2023, with some of them actually being still probably worked on and finished in 2024. So with that, even though the funds were appropriated in 2022, if those bills were not paid, we still have to make those payments in 2023. And so essentially what you're doing is rolling over the budgeted authority that you made in 2022 into 2023. These are not new expenditures that were not previously planned. It's simply including that budgeted authority from 2022 into 2023. Then there's $4.2 million in tax increment finance districts. About half of that is from receipts that were higher than what we had anticipated, so that's a good thing, meaning those TIDs are being paid off sooner than what we had anticipated. And so every time we receive that cash in, we turn around and pay off the loan, and we have to anticipate each year how much we would receive when we actually get more money in. That's a good thing. That means there is more construction occurred in that district than what we had anticipated, so it'll be repaid earlier. The other half of that is for projects or a tax increment that was completed, a district that was completed, and so essentially what we're doing is accepting the value of the public improvements that were made within that tax increment finance district. There's $1 million that are for various other items, largely, actually 300,000 of that is because our BBB or tourism tax was higher than what we had anticipated, and we do revert 25% of that from the monument to the CVB. And so when we receive more money than we anticipate, then we pass on more money than what we had originally anticipated. There is about $1.8 million for additional staffing expenses than what was anticipated. That's largely within the public safety departments. What happened there? The city was trying to fully fill our ranks, even though the ranks in those departments were not necessarily fully budgeted for in 2023, and so that is making up the difference. So in other words, we were able to hire and retain more officers and firefighters than what we had originally anticipated. There also is a little extra in a couple departments from a couple different merit increase or step increases that were awarded that were not necessarily anticipated when the budget was prepared last year. Are there any questions?
Thank you for that detailed overview. Any questions for Mr. Ainsley? With that, we'll welcome a motion. Got a motion by Sechrist, second by Maher to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, before we begin items 29 and 30, we're going to have a presentation from Public Works Director Dale Tech.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I've got a very brief presentation for you this evening regarding our proposed rate structure. This is a very big decision for Rapid City. As most of you may or may not know, we have a zero-based budget in everything that we do in Public Works, which means our revenue and expenses equal zero at the end of the year. The last few years have been extremely challenging for us. As Mr. Peters mentioned earlier, as part of the water reclamation facility presentation and public hearing. So without further ado, I'll get going here. What is the impact to the average residential customer of the proposed rate structure, which is 10% a year for the next 5 years on the water side and 12% a year on the wastewater side? The current 2023 average bill, which was also the 2022 average bill, is going to increase annually $3.99 per month, and on the wastewater side, $3.84 for a grand total of $7.83 a month will be the increase that a average residential person would see on their bill. At the end of 5 years, the water bill would be $63.76, which is roughly a 60% increase, and a wastewater charge of $56.38, which is approximately 70%. So it's not a 100% increase over 5 years, but they are significant increases, and I'll get into the why of that here. The top chart shows the city's cost from 2019 through 2023 for water and sewer main install and replacement. On the water side, we've seen a 169% increase in the cost of water main install on our projects, and about I believe it's 112% increase on our sewer main install. Some of our previous presentations that we gave you, we've got approximately 400 miles of water main in the city, and give or take the same amount of sewer main, maybe a little bit less. The chart below shows our last 5-year average of what we've been replacing annually, and on the water and sewer side, it's about 10,000 feet, a couple of miles, or 20 to 25 blocks worth of water main and sewer main. In addition to that, about 100 service lines that go along with that every year. Without adequately funding our utilities, that reduces the amount of upkeep and maintenance and projects like this that we do across our community. I certainly understand everyone's concern about raising rates. However, the cost of business is gone way up. And for us just to keep pace with what we're doing, there are some increases that are necessary. This is captures really what our current revenues are in the lighter blue and green, and then our projected expenditures over the next 5 years on an annual basis. As you can see, the expenditures outstrip our revenues if we don't make any increases at all. So once again, a significant disparity there in where we're at today and where we believe costs are going to take us into the year 2028. There's been some talk I've heard about, well, perhaps we should do a different amount of increase or reduce the proposed amounts. And I understand that those are big numbers and a difficult decision to make at this time. We've put together a chart here that basically illustrates a reduction in those increases and what that means as far as a revenue coming in. So just a 1% increase, or I'm sorry, a 1% decrease in the proposed rates for water at the end of 5 years is about $5 million in revenue that we would not have to be able to continue capital improvement projects. And then the same in the green there. It's a little bit steeper on the wastewater side. I'm sorry, just a little bit less on the wastewater side. And keep in mind, the less we adjust rates today is going to cause us a problem even further down the road. We do have big projects planned in our CIP, but our city is going to need those one day. Certainly we've got aged infrastructure. Our wastewater treatment plant is a prime example of that. I think as Eddie Lopez stated earlier, it was 2016 when we first brought the facility plan to the city council, acknowledging that we're going to have to replace that plant one day. It was built in the 60s with some minor upgrades along the way. And we're going to have similar needs coming at us. Obviously, our Mountain View treatment plant, also built in the 1960s, is going to have a fairly significant either a rehab or replacement. We still haven't decided, haven't done the work behind what we actually need to do there. I think we're leaning more towards a rehab, reuse of the facility to get the costs lower. But as our community grows, as we get new citizens here, and we have our older parts of town, a lot of our infrastructure is over 100 years old. And some of it's in amazing shape and will probably last 200 years, but some of it is not. And we must keep up on that capital improvement and replacement plan to be able to provide good service to our customers. I'd like to finish, I guess, with the quality of our system. We've received 20 years of drinking water excellence, consecutive years from the state of South Dakota. That's something to be very, very proud of. Not only that, but our employees, our people that have dedicated their lives and their careers to making Rapid City a better place with clean water and cleaning the wastewater. And additionally, I should point out the sustainability stewardship stakeholder meeting that we had with the city council, sustainability folks and other interested parties. Water conservation, source water protection, and system facility improvements is a big item for that group. With that being said, I will stand for any questions you may have on the rate structure tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Tech. What we'll do is we'll read the items in, and then council has questions for you. They can ask it at that point. So we can move on to item 29, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6596, an ordinance to revise the rates charged by the city's water utility by amending section 13.08.400 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. And this item was referred back to committee at the November 20th, 2023 City Council meeting. And with that, we'll open up to the council. Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Looks like everybody's chicken to speak on this. Come on, everybody, let's start talking about this. Dale, since you're up there, would you go back into your chart when you were looking at the services as far as operation, there we go, right there. On the service lines, you said we do 100 service lines a year. What are those for?
So when we're reconstructing a water sewer main, we always replace the sewer line to the property line, as well as the water service line to the property line with a new curb stop.
Okay. I wasn't sure about that because I know the city doesn't do them from the curbs up to the house, so I was just curious about that. So we'll just get into the partial study that I did receive. And on page 11, I know that Chris had brought this up. The $80 million that's budgeted for the maintenance and operation facility, can you describe that a little bit?
Certainly. We have our plants to produce water or to clean water. We also have a need to house the equipment that we send out every day to jet sewer lines, to fix water main breaks. So those facilities are a facility to house our equipment on our operation and maintenance side of the house, both for water and wastewater.
How big of a facility are you talking about for $80 million?
For $80 million, it's significant. Certainly, we've got $500,000 pieces of equipment that we need to keep out of the weather and need to park in. So obviously, I don't have a square footage that I can give you, but it's a significant facility.
So I know that costs have just exploded in the last 2 years, but a couple of years ago, I had a estimate on a 500,000 square foot building, and it was less than $80 million. So I'm just kind of curious because that seems like a huge number for a facility for for that type of an operation, unless you're building something that's hundreds of thousands of square feet big. So anyway, that's just part of my questions. When are we expecting, if we okay it, because we haven't even okayed it yet, but it's in the rate fee structure, the Southeast Water Treatment Facility, when, again, if the council actually does agree to it, when are we expecting that to at least start, doing engineering? And
certainly
a few
within
other
the
things?
next 2 years, we'll be doing a facility plan, start on initial cost estimates to refine the cost on that. So it'll be within the next few years.
So adding into the rates, because that's a huge amount that you're putting into this study, I mean, $274 million. Why are we budgeting it in 2 years before we even start to design it?
I believe the budget year.
Or why are we adding it into the fees 2 years before we're going to start?
Well, if you go to page 1, that shows the balance of.
Sorry, I don't have page 1,
Okay,
and my
well,
computer died on me. I didn't.
The proposed rate structure, once again, back to zero-based budgeting. Everything that we are proposing, there's a O&M component to it as well as a capital improvement component to it. And each year, those dollars balance. So in the years that we aren't building a plant or don't have debt service, we're doing other capital improvements, i.e. street reconstruction projects
Yes,
and
I
reconstructing the
understand that.
water and the sewer.
Yes.
So there's a balance there. There's an ebb and flow of capital improvement projects throughout the plan.
Okay. Thank you. Can I ask a question to our finance director?
You can. You got about 35 seconds left.
Thank you, Daniel. I bet I can get a lot more time than that if I want it. Daniel, can you tell me roughly between the water and the sewer what we do have? Because somebody had mentioned we've got $50 million in undesignated cash in them.
Do you have a second question? That'll take a second.
I can wait. Or I can bring Mr. Freytag up here because you had asked me a question earlier. I can answer that for you if you want me to.
Well, Mr. Roberts, since your time's up, I know you're going to get time from somebody else. Maybe you can get those questions out there, have them look up, and then borrow that time to get the answer back.
Sounds good.
Sound good? we'll move on to Mr. Ham.
Thank you. I just have a brief question. Maybe it's been answered that I didn't hear. Is there a reason that we can't attach the full rate study to this process? I know we've seen parts of it, so that our constituents can read that as well. I don't know that it would necessarily add a lot, but is that something we can do?
No.
Certainly.
Mr. Tech?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. When might we be able to do that?
We can add it as early as tomorrow.
Okay. I yield the rest of my time, Mr.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak? We do know Mr. Roseland first has given 5 minutes of his time to Mr. Roberts, so you're back in business, sir.
I do appreciate the fact that we're going to get the rate study. I don't appreciate the fact that last Friday, Mr. Tech sent me an email that said, I can't have it because part of this study is reliant on these rates that we need to raise so we can have the the rate study, whatever. I mean, this whole process to me, it's been like, I don't know if staff, if whoever wants to put all the information out in the public, how many people in Rapid City know that we're looking at close to $500 million in capital improvement projects in the next 5 years? I think that that's very important. I think that if you look through the studies, and thank you for sending me what you did send me on Friday, and I take that back.
I never said you couldn't have it. I never said that.
And I had it sent before and I missed it. So I do apologize on that. But it wasn't very detailed information. It was pages here and pages there and not the whole study. But it's interesting when you're going through all this and seeing everything that's in there and having to piece together a lot of it, because it looks like the study is planning on 43,000 accounts within the next 20 years. We currently have 25,000 accounts, is that right?
26.
26,000 accounts. So we're going to add another 20,000 accounts in the next 20 years, but it took us 130 years to get 25,000 accounts. And then when you break it down, some of these accounts are ridiculous. You're looking at at what you're assuming. You're assuming that we're going to have 10,000 more commercial customers in 20 years. It's not going to happen. So I guess I'm just very upset about what we've been given so far, so little information to go on, and you're asking us to vote on, and you're right, it isn't very big, $3.98 a year, $3 and whatever a year. But I do appreciate the fact that you did say that at the end of 5 years, because that's the first time I've heard that your $71 total utility or total water and sewer charge is going to go from $71 to $150. People need to know that. The people of Rapid City deserve us to be open and honest with them about what's coming forward. And I'm done. I'm not going to vote on this again tonight. The council can do whatever they want to. I need to wrap my head around this and figure out how we need to go forward on this, because I'm just not going to give a blank check to all these projects. Agreed, we need to vote on the sewer. We need to figure out how to pay for something that we've already allocated. But I'm not going to agree on these large rate increases for a water rec facility I'm not even convinced that we need at this time. I don't know. What's our capacity? What's our current capacity? How many more users can we add? Why isn't that information in there? That's information I was expecting to see in the rate study that we never got. So I'm done. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Rod Pettigrew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Didn't know water could be such a hot issue, but it is. Water's important. I don't know if we're going to vote on this tonight. I would vote to support it. And I'm affected like everyone else. I have a business, and as we all know, business pays a higher rate than residential rates are. My only, a couple comments here. And Dale, this is just not directed at your department. This is all city departments. And I hope they're listening. You got to give us more time. This is a complicated issue. And all of this came at us. None of us up here, John knows more than any of us put together about water, but none of us know anything about this. And at the last, when you put it together, and I'm not picking on you, Dale, just all departments in general, you guys study this stuff for weeks ahead of time. You know it like the back of your hand, and we don't know anything about it. And I would just encourage all city departments, when they bring something as important as this to us, give us more time to review it, to study it, so we can make calls amongst ourselves. I've called Dale I don't know how many times trying to get smart about this, and I'm still not very smart. So that would just be one comment I'd have in general. I think part of this whole process should be, what is Rapid City going to do to conserve water? That's an important issue. I have a coworker whose son lives in Loveland. He just built a new home down there, and only 25% of his entire lot can be grass. And I think Rapid City has to look at those things. Water is a precious resource, and we cannot be wasting it on watering sidewalks. You drive around town and you see people just being reckless with water, and I wish Public Works could look at maybe some suggestions that we could incorporate maybe into our building codes that would reduce the water usage that we're all using. I know from my own standpoint, you've heard me say this before, I'll put my lawn up against anyone in Rapid City. I love a nice lawn. I work hard. When I go home, I like to sit on my deck, sip a glass of wine, and feel good about it, and I can look on my grass, and I'm relieved. It makes me feel comfortable. But I did tell my wife, because of these water rates, I will conserve water. I will reduce the volume, the time I'm in the shower, and I will reduce the volume of water that I put on my lawn, because this has gotten my attention. And I think, John, to your point, it's expensive, but I do think people will see how precious a resource water is, and hopefully we'll use less water. Thank you.
Jesse Ham.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not a fan of water constriction. I think you kind of described it, Mr. Pettigrew. I think if people have a beautiful lawn and they want to spend the money on their lawn, I think that's fair. What I think is fairly fair in this situation is to give us a little bit of time to read the full report, and then any of our constituents want to read that as well. I think that's fair that they have that opportunity. And so my sentiment at this point would be, I think it's a complicated issue, and it's a lot more complicated if you have incomplete data. So let's give it a couple of weeks to actually review the full subset and give us the. I think Dale, you'd probably agree. You got some capable people up here that can probably take in some of the data, and we'll have an opportunity to do that. Most of us have run smaller businesses with tighter budgets. That it's a different structure, but it's hard, and we don't have any leverage like raising fees. So that's one of the things that I think is fair. Like you described, I think we can give that to the public, and then my proposal would be, and I'll not make a motion right now, but I'd like to be able to consider in 2 weeks reassessing the water, and I'd like to defer for further discussion.
Okay. Next, Councilor Sechrist.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to motion to approve and request to retain the floor, if I can get a second.
Second.
I know we've spent a considerable amount of time discussing the water rates and utility rate increases, and I, just as much as anyone else, will be impacted by this. My family lives on a budget. I pay the water bill. I paid it last night. I took into consideration the impact that this will have on me personally and us as a family. This is a hard pill to swallow. I'm in support of this because I feel like our Public Works Department has done an excellent job of explaining to us what the impacts of the O&M and the increase in construction and the capital improvements that are going to be a result of these rate increases. And this is, in fact, a benefit that we have as residents of Rapid City. I know I've gushed about this before. Rapid City has the first source water supply. We're unique in this area with the quality of water that we have. It is limited, and we do need to take measures to just be respectful of that. And I don't know if that's, I don't know how I agree with imposing a restriction, and it's not my point here, but you know, we talked about the wastewater treatment facility, went into operation in 1967. That's our water reclamation facility, the item of discussion tonight, what we heard earlier public hearing on. I believe there will be consequences, and I don't know what the time frame is on this, but we have an opportunity right now to utilize some funding from the state to pay for a portion of that project. Our water department is also provided the capital improvements list here with our southeast surface water treatment plant, the upgrades to the Mountain View water treatment plant. These are all significant projects with significant costs, and I just think that we need to prepare now, and the sooner that we can move forward with these projects, the better off we're going to be. The more you delay in construction, the more costs increase, and I don't think we'll see that slow down. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Councilor Evans.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple comments. I agree with Mr. Pettigrew that this transparency thing is critical, and there's no reason why in the future we can't be much better at providing this information to people. I've talked about this for about 4 years now, and I would suggest with these big studies, any study for that matter, we have a link on the first page of our city website, so people don't have to go digging through menus to find it. Boom, current projects, information you need to know. Go over and click, and we can get all this stuff, and I think that's easy to make happen. I don't believe anything nefarious is going on with our budgeting. I've lived in this town since 1960 when I was a kid and my folks moved here. I know that there are communities out there that pass bond issues to get these things done. And there are communities that if they need a $500 million water treatment plant, they just put it up to a vote and people pass it. Now, if you realize and you follow along what's gone on with the schools, the last time we've passed a bond issue for schools in this town was 1966, I believe, or 67. And that was to build Stevens High School. In the meanwhile, Casper, Bismarck, Billings, Sioux Falls, all of the surrounding communities have passed multiple bond issues. So I understand the creative financing that has to go on with our school district to get any building built by squirreling away money. And I think that kind of our city departments have had to do the same thing to make sure that things get paid for in the future. And I think these fees, they need to be, they're building in these things that we need to pay for because we're not going to pass those bond issues to just make it happen. So I don't believe it's nefarious. I don't believe anybody's trying to be dishonest or sneaky. I read today where the average cost of a new car sold in this United States is $48,000. Now, I think 10 years ago, people would have been horrified to think a new car costs that much money. But the cost of doing business is going up. We need to pay our bills and we need to get things done. So begrudgingly, I will support this because I think we have to pay our bills and we need to plan for the future. So I just wanted to make those quick comments. Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we'll go to Daniel Ainsley with the Finance Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To respond to an earlier question, the current available cash in the water fund is $31 million, and in the wastewater fund it is $20 million.
And that's sorry.
I'll allow it.
That's available undesignated. That's
No, I'm sorry. So some of that is designated for current capital projects that are occurring. And so if you take off as well as deposits, you would need to, and I don't have the exact number, I could send it to you later this week. You would probably have to remove about 10 million from each one. And so there is available undesignated cash, but most of that is in the reserves. That's included. If you remember, the reserves were built
do.
up from the 2017 study, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's meant to carry the city forward in the case of a massive flooding event or something like that. So technically, you would be able to use those for capital projects, but then you would have no reserves.
Yeah, and I notice that we also have a reserve for rate increases,
Stabilizations,
stabilization. Yeah, which seems very funny that we're making these rates this high, but we're not using that. So anyway, I've said enough. Thanks.
Jesse Ham.
With regard to item 29, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we delay that vote until 2 weeks from now to give our constituents time to review this document. And I appreciate the sentiment that you had, Bill, about putting those so they're really available for people readily.
Okay, so the substitute motion by Ham and a second by Roberts. I skipped over Mr. Tech because of the way this is set up. So Mr. Tech, I'll allow you to speak into this before we vote.
Just to comment on that motion to continue, and we've been saying this for months, any questions at all you have on this, we're available. It's not straightforward. It doesn't flow like a regular business. Any questions at all, staff is available to answer any questions you have between now and whenever the decision is made.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Pettigrew, you're back in the queue.
So I don't know if this question will go to Mr. Tech or Mr. Ainsley. By delaying this, does that at all affect our ability to receive the funds, the 44 million or any of that? Will this delay anything, or will we lose any funding by delaying this?
The 40 million is already taken care of.
Okay.
It's purely the $35 million loan that was described tonight. Jennifer? The answer is no.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this topic? I do appreciate the dialogue on this. And so the motion on the floor is to continue this 2 weeks until the next city council meeting. Is that correct? All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Motion passes with 2 noes from Pettigrew and Sechrist. Actually, excuse me, I don't think I ever read this in, did I? Oh, yeah, I did. Never mind. I did. But item 30, resolution to amend rates to be charged in 2024 through 2028 for water and water reclamation utilities. This item was also referred back to committees at the November 20th, 2023 City Council meeting. We have a discussion or a motion. Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
I'll make a motion to move this to the next council meeting.
Got a motion by Roberts, second by Lehman to continue this to the next City Council meeting. Any other comments? With that, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Motion carries 2 noes from Pettigrew and Sechrist. That'll take us to item 31, a request by DEC for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed Lot 1 of exceptional subdivision, generally described as being located southeast of the intersection of Dias Avenue and East Small Drive. The recommendation is to approve with stipulations. We'll go to Mr. Roberts.
Thank you. I just need to abstain from this.
Got 1 abstention from Mr. Roberts. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Motion by Lehman to approve with stipulation, second by Ham. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 32, approve the attached list of 2024 alcohol beverage license renewals, which have been vetted and approved by the Rapid City Police Department and the Rapid City Fire Department. Recommendations to approve. Got a motion by Evans, second by Roberts to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to public hearing items, items 33 through 34. I do have 1 speaker request form for item 34. That is from Judd Nielsen with Summer Nights. Judd, 3 minutes. And again, this is for item 34.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. As in the past few years, I've been up here to just kind of give you an overview of Rapid City Summer Nights. We just wrapped up our 16th year. That is it's quite an accomplishment given how much work and effort's in there and how many headaches probably some of you have been through with discussions that we've all had. And we started planning our 17th year. I did bring with me about 5 or 6 of our board members just so you guys could see a different face other than mine. You can look at them while I'm trying to get through a little presentation here. But they put in countless hours every year without much benefit other than putting on a great event for our community that is very diverse. And it brings some buzz to downtown one day a week in the summer. So I would like to thank Parks and Rec, Mr. Beegler. I'd like to thank Don Hedrick and his crew, and Jason at the fire department. Your guys' continued support of our event couldn't go on without some good community involvement, and it takes a real big crew to put this on. Just quickly, some numbers in 2023 that I want you guys to just kind of get in your head is, we have a total of 20 sponsors. Without our sponsors and volunteers, that's the key to putting this event on. Of those sponsors, 6 of them are physically located in our downtown community. 18 of those 20 are Rapid City communities, and then we have a couple others that some alcohol-related companies that sponsor us from afar. Nightly, we have 90 to 100 people that volunteer every night that we have an event. This doesn't include the paid staff. This includes actual volunteers. And I think that's impressive when you're considering you're asking people to put in a minimum of 5 hours to do their volunteer efforts on a weekly basis. Now you add that up and you got over 1,400 volunteers that are coming downtown throughout the summer. Of those, we have 42 companies or organizations that contribute 10 plus for team building activities. And it's one of the things that just continues to be amazing to me. We do not have an issue getting volunteer groups to sign up to do team building activities for this event. This event is very popular. We had a wait list last year, and that's the first time I've seen a wait list other than maybe someone asking us in July if we can still help you out. 3 nonprofits contribute 14 individuals every week to man the gates, and this year wasn't very easy. We did take on a recommendation from the RCPD to go with the bag policy or no bag policy. It was a little rough start, but we got through it, and I think it got better as the season went on. And then 2 Air Force Base squadrons, that bring in 18 to 20 a week. So I think it's just impressive with the numbers that we have. We donate over $20,000 back to these organizations on an annual basis, and we spend $180,000 to $220,000 to businesses in our community each year. So that stuff is circling around. The money we make, it gets back into this community. We've been around since 2013. A little history here, because I do want to, if I could have an extra minute.
Well, Mr. Nielsen.
All right, ask me a question so I can divert it. I'm sorry, but in 2013, we did have a 3-year permit that got, and I want to give some history because I want to talk about a little issue that was brought up downtown. In 2013, we got a 3-year permit approval. That was a pretty big headache for everybody who was on the council at that time. In 2016, we changed the process for event permits to Parks and Rec ran it. And at that time, we changed our process. We met with Parks and Rec, Fire, and Police on an annual basis to approve our permit. And then in 2017, we signed a 5-year deal to align with the vision funds that were spent to buy the stage that we currently use, and very much appreciated. So thank you all who participated in that. And we had that agreement in place, but that agreement didn't mean anything other than it allowed us to negotiate contracts to help reduce some of the costs that we incur, like sound, things like that. I bring that up because there was an issue this year, and we have not been approached. And part of that agreement was if downtown comes with us with an issue, we would work with them on it. And I just want you guys to know that I have met. This is the first year that I've had to meet with downtown businesses to discuss any type of issues that they have, and so that's ongoing. And we wanted to make sure that you guys knew that was ongoing, and we continue to do that. We bring ideas to them that'll help keep our downtown community a vibrant place. And I think we're still fulfilling our mission of bringing people downtown. And with that, we know that these people are spending money in our downtown businesses, and we want all of our downtown community to survive and to be fruitful and to make money, right? So,
Mr. Nielsen, we got to wrap that up.
You got it. Any
I shouldn't have let
questions?
you go on this long. So
I know.
my apologies to the council. Honestly, I have to enforce the rules.
I would
evenly.
say I could have had 5 other people get up here on my behalf too and just continue this.
That would have been good.
I do get boring, yes.
All right. With that, that'll take us to the end. Take us to the end of the public hearing items, and now we will move on to consent items 33 through 34. Mr. Evans, you have the floor.
Thank you. At the end of the summer, I received many phone calls from downtown business people that were unhappy with the way the event has evolved and everything. And I said, well, if we need to change when and where and how this thing operates, please include us in the conversations with downtown business people. I haven't really received any calls or anything talking about that or been invited to meetings, but I think the issue still exists, and the minute we approve this, there's going to be mad people. So I would if it wasn't for the fact that it specifies the 500 block of the location, I would say let's just go ahead and vote this. Right now, I'm going to ask that we separate these 2 items and vote on them separately, because I would rather delay the vote on the summer nights thing. I think it's a good event that we need to continue, but I think there's some discussion that needs to take place before we approve this, and the phone calls keep on coming. So I'm going to move that we separate these 2 items, and I don't know how we make this happen. If I could get a second.
Sir, it's
on
just
that.
a consent. You're just pulling a consent item.
Okay, we just pull it? All right, all right.
Okay.
So I'm going to pull 34.
All
then.
right.
All right.
And we'll count that time talk towards that. With that, do we have a motion to approve item 33? Got a motion by Ham, second by Stroman to approve item 33. I should read that in since it's by itself. Dakota Choral Union for a special event, on-sale wine license and off-sale package wine license for an event scheduled for February 17, 2024 at Youth and Family Services, 120 East Adams Street. We have a motion by Ham, second by Stroman. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 34, I'll read this in. Rapid City Summer Nights for a special event, on sale malt beverage license for events scheduled for May 30th, 2024, June 6, 2024, June 13th, 2024, June 20th, 2024, June 27th, 2024, July 4th, 2024, July 11th, 2024, July 18th, 2024, July 25th, 2024, August 1st, 2024, August 8th, 2024, August 15th, 2024, August 22nd, 2024, and August 29th, 2024 at the 500 block of 7th Street and 600 through 700 block of St. Joseph Street. And with that, we will go to Mr. Evans.
Okay, again, I'm going to suggest that we simply move this to a meeting in January, perhaps giving these concerned parties a chance to communicate with us before we vote, and we're locked into something that people are going to be complaining about. I don't believe it's going to affect
Mr.
your
Evans, are you
timeline
giving
one way or the other.
Are you giving a specific motion?
I'm going to move that we delay this to a meeting in January.
Which meeting?
The first meeting in January.
First meeting in January. Is there a second? We have a second by Ham to delay this item into the first meeting of January of 2024. Do you have any other comments, Mr. Evans? Okay. All right, Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Thank you. Probably a question to the city attorney. By us moving this off, is there any timelines we have to have this license in place ahead of time before their events?
And with that, we'll go to City Attorney Joel Landine.
I don't think there's a legal
issue. I would imagine the Summer Nights is going to say they have to start planning and spending money, so that they would like to know as soon as possible. But on the other hand, if the alternative is the licenses be denied if the hand was forced, I would guess that a couple week delay is probably a better option.
Yeah, I'd vote for it tonight. I mean, I've been on the council for 12 years and I haven't had a downtown business person call me yet about it. So I know there's been issues, and I won't say that there hasn't been calls, because I know people that have been in the past in Ward 2, they tend to get the calls because it's their ward. So I'm not going to discount the fact that there probably are not getting calls. But again, yeah, if I was to vote on it tonight, I'd vote for it. So I think if we move it off a couple of weeks, I don't think you guys are going to have to worry about us denying this. So I will support Bill's motion tonight and give him some time to talk to his constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Mr. Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure that the first meeting in January is going to be the 2nd then, since the 1st is a Monday. Is that accurate, or will it be January?
That is
January
correct.
2nd?
Yep. It's always the first Monday, but this year it's on a Monday, so it's on Tuesday. Is that
New Year's is a Monday.
New Year's is a Monday.
So we'll be on the 2nd, Daniel? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Good question. Next, Mr. Bieberdorf.
Yeah, I would say it's a great event. It's been a great addition to the city. This board's looking to get approval. We all know it's going to be approved, and I think we're just delaying the inevitable. So I would make a secondary motion to approve item 34 tonight.
Second.
All right, we have a substitute motion by Bieberdorf to approve and a second by Sechrist tonight. Okay. Writing this stuff down.
Everybody has to make it so hard.
Well, it's part of the process. Gotta love it. All right, any other comments or questions regarding this motion for tonight? And once again, I do want to apologize for allowing the speaker to go long. I should not have done that. Council, my apologies. Next, Mr. Maher.
Well, I'd just like to say I would support this. It's like a fixture in Rapid City. I had concerns early on, thinking, oh my gosh, I'd hate to own a little restaurant downtown and have to compete with that, or a bar. But on those Thursday nights, every bar and every restaurant is packed. So everybody in town is down there having a good time. And so I'm ready to support it tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Otherwise, we'll go to the vote to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I think I have a no from Pettigrew, Evans, and Stroman. Is that correct? Okay, motion passes 7-3 with Pettigrew, Evans, and Stroman voting no. That takes us to the end of the consent public hearing calendar. Before we go to the bill list, I'm going to give a point of personal privilege to Kevin Maher. Mr. Maher.
Yes, I just wanted to challenge my fellow council members. Next week, we host the Lakota Nation Invitational. It's much more than just a basketball tournament. There will be 48 basketball teams in town, but there's also a corporate hand games competition. This brings 20 teams from corporations and the county and the city together for some fun competition. And it's a great game. It's easy to learn. It's from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock next Friday, the 15th. So all the council members have gotten an email invite from Nicole. Nicole wants to be on the team with us, so we just need 3 more council members, and we will have a hand game team for the LNI. Thank you.
Very well. Challenge has been laid out. With that, we will go to the bill list, and Mr. Ainsley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The total bills for tonight are $9,055,182.63.
Got a motion by Roberts and a second by, was it Roseland, to approve? All in favor? Oh, before we do, Ms. Sechrist. Ms. Sechrist wants to jump in.
I just have a really quick question.
All right.
In the bill list, there were a number of personal citizens with a $1,600 credit for Canyon Lake reconstruction. I'm sure there's a legitimate payout for this, but I was just curious what that was.
So we have a question regarding these items. And with that, it looks like Public Works Director Dale Tech has the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we do projects, we have to acquire easements from people, and we pay for those easements. So that's what those are for.
I did see some were 100, but the majority were the 1,600, and I knew there was a legitimate reason. I was just curious. Thank you.
Fair question. All right. The motion's to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Got a motion by Stroman, second by Roberts to adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.